The day I stopped apologizing. They say family knows you best. But what if the only version they ever loved was the one who kept saying sorry just to be accepted? For most of my life, I believed that love was something you earned by being small. I thought if I smiled enough, stayed quiet enough, and said sorry fast enough, people would stay. I thought being easy to love meant being less of myself. That's how I lived, always adjusting, always softening, always apologizing. Until one winter night, I realized I didn't have to anymore. I grew up in a house where silence was safer than truth. My mother liked to keep things pretty, dinner tables perfect, family pictures flawless, voices low and polite. My father believed emotions were something you controlled, not expressed. My brother fit in perfectly, golden child, the example of everything I was. And me? I was the one who felt too much. The one who asked too many questions, who cried too easily, who loved too deeply. In a house like ours, sensitivity wasn't a virtue. It was an inconvenience. So I learned early to apologize for existing the way I was. When my mother sighed at my tears, I said sorry. When my father's voice grew sharp, I said sorry. When my brother rolled his eyes, I said sorry. It became automatic, a reflex. I apologized before anyone even got the chance to be angry. Sorry, Mom, I didn't mean to make things awkward. Sorry, Dad, I wasn't trying to talk back. Sorry, I know I'm overreacting. I said it so many times that it stopped being a word. It became survival. As I grew older, that habit followed me everywhere, to college, to friendships, to love. Every relationship I built was built on apology. I said sorry when I was ignored, sorry when I was hurt, sorry when someone else disappointed me. When people mistreated me, I convinced myself it was my fault. When they left, I told myself I hadn't been enough. I was fluent in guilt, fluent in self-blame. I became an expert at shrinking, and the world rewarded me for it. "You're so understanding," they said. "So patient, so easy to be around." But they never noticed that my silence came from exhaustion, not grace. It took me years to understand that kindness without boundaries is just self-destruction wearing a smile. Then came that winter, the one that changed everything. I almost didn't go home for Christmas that year, but guilt has a strange way of winning. The house looked the same, golden lights, glittering tree, the smell of cinnamon and something too sweet. My mother hugged me like a routine. My father nodded without words. My brother poured another drink and laughed at his own stories. Everything looked perfect, like a photograph trying too hard to look happy. For a few hours, I played my role, the quiet daughter, the polite one. I laughed when expected, nodded when spoken to, and refilled my mother's wine glass like always. I told myself that maybe this time, things would be different. Maybe if I was careful enough, soft enough, everything would stay peaceful. Then, as I was standing by the kitchen door, I heard it, my mother's voice, soft, almost kind. "She means well," she said, "but she always ruins things." It was a small sentence, just a few words, but it cracked something inside me that had been straining for years. I stood there, the wine bottle heavy in my hand, my heart suddenly quiet. Not broken, just still. I didn't cry. I didn't go in and argue. I didn't explain myself for once. I simply put the glass down, walked past the tree, past the laughter that had never included me, and stepped into the cold night. Snow was falling, soft and slow, landing on my hair and eyelashes. I didn't brush it away. For once, I let the world touch me without apology. The air was freezing, but I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years. The silence outside didn't punish me. It welcomed me. I started walking nowhere in particular, just away. Every step felt like a decision, a small, quiet rebellion. By the time I reached my apartment, my fingers were numb, but my chest felt light. Inside, the air was still and real. I made myself a cup of coffee, sat by the window, and stared at the snow-covered world outside. My phone buzzed, messages from people I had spent years trying to please. Old chats filled with sorry after sorry. Sorry for speaking too soon. Sorry for caring too much. Sorry for not being enough. I started deleting them one by one. Each soft click sounded like a release. Each deletion felt like taking my name back from everyone who had used it as a doormat. It was almost midnight when I closed my phone and looked out at the city again. The world was quiet. My reflection in the window looked unfamiliar, not broken, not fixed, just mine. I whispered to it, "No more," and that was enough. The days after felt strange. I woke up every morning expecting the old rhythm of guilt to return, expecting to reach for an apology the moment something went wrong. But instead, I sat in the stillness. I let myself breathe. I stopped checking my phone for messages that never came. I stopped replaying conversations to figure out what I'd done wrong. I stopped making excuses for people who never tried to understand me. It felt unnatural at first, like wearing someone else's skin, but slowly it became home. When my mother texted me, "Why did you leave so suddenly?" I didn't explain, I just wrote, "I needed space." No sorry, no justification. When a friend canceled plans again, I didn't rush to comfort her guilt. I just said, "It's okay, take care." It wasn't coldness. It was self-respect, something I'd forgotten I was allowed to have. Some mornings, I'd walk through the snow to the park, coffee in hand, and feel the world without fear. The sun rising over frosted branches, the sound of my own footsteps, the pulse in my chest reminding me I was still here, not for anyone else, just for me. For years, I had lived like a mirror, reflecting everyone else's needs. But now I was learning to be a window, open, clear, unafraid to let the light in. One evening, I caught my reflection again in the mirror this time. I looked older but softer somehow. Not the girl who kept apologizing, but the woman who had finally stopped. My eyes carried pain, yes, but also peace. The kind of peace that doesn't depend on anyone's permission. I smiled, a small, honest smile. The kind I hadn't seen on my face in years. Healing isn't dramatic. It doesn't happen all at once. Some days I still felt the old guilt tugging at me, whispering that I was selfish for putting myself first. But every time I ignored it, it got quieter. Healing, I realized, wasn't about forgetting the people who hurt me. It was about remembering myself before they did. Months passed. The snow melted into spring, and one afternoon my mother called. Her voice was careful, uncertain. "I've been thinking," she said, "about what I said that night. I didn't mean to hurt you." The old me would have rushed to say it was okay, that I was sorry for overreacting. But I didn't. I took a slow breath and said, "I know you didn't mean to, but it did hurt." There was silence, long, unfamiliar silence. Then she said quietly, "Maybe we both have things to learn." After the call, I didn't cry. I just sat there, sunlight streaming through the window, and felt something settle inside me, not forgiveness exactly, but freedom. Because for the first time, I realized I didn't need anyone else's apology to feel whole. I had already given myself the one that mattered. I'm sorry for making myself small just to be loved. Now, when I walk through the city, I don't shrink anymore. I still feel everything deeply, sadness, joy, fear, love, but I don't apologize for it. I don't apologize for my silence or my laughter, for my sensitivity or strength. If someone can't stay, I let them go. If someone stays, I let them in, but never at the cost of losing myself again. Sometimes I still visit my family. The house looks the same, but it doesn't feel the same. Maybe because I don't play my old role anymore. I don't fill the silence with nervous chatter. I don't say sorry for existing. I simply am. And for the first time, that's enough. I catch my mother watching me sometimes, quietly, thoughtfully, and I see something softer in her eyes. Maybe she's finally seeing me, not the version she wanted, but the person I became when I stopped apologizing. The truth is, freedom doesn't always roar. Sometimes it comes quietly, in a cold night's walk, in a deleted message, in the gentle realization that you don't need to fix what you didn't break. I used to think strength meant endurance, that peace meant keeping everyone happy. But now I know strength is choosing yourself, even when it disappoints others. Peace is walking away without guilt. The day I stopped apologizing wasn't the day I stopped loving others. It was the day I started loving myself, fully, fiercely, without conditions. Because the strongest words I've ever said were, "I'm sorry." They were, "I'm done apologizing for who I am." And that changed everything.